Are you struggling to decide between the iPhone 17 Pro and the iPhone 17 Pro Max? Well, while that question might sound silly at first, I totally get it. You're about to spend over $1,100 on a phone and you'll want to make sure that it is perfect for you. And while you may think the only difference between these phones is the size, there's actually a few more things you need to know before picking one of these up, because these phones have changed a lot since the last 16 Pro and Pro Max, and the sacrifices you used to have to make, well, you may not have to make them anymore. First, let's go over price and model configurations, because there's actually a key difference here now. So first of all, the iPhone 17 Pro starts at a higher price point of $1,100 compared to last year when it started at $999. However, it now comes with 256 gigabytes storage as standard, so it kind of didn't get a price increase. They just dropped the 128 gigabyte base model. You can also upgrade the storage to 512 gigabytes for $200 more, or to 1 terabyte for $400 more. The 17 Pro Max, on the other hand, is $100 more, which is now a smaller price difference than it was last year between the 16 Pro and the Pro Max, which had a $200 difference at the base models because of that storage difference. Just like the 17 Pro, it has a 512 gigabyte option and a 1 terabyte option. However, the key difference here is that the Pro Max has an exclusive 2 terabyte version. Now, I highly doubt, in fact, I can say with certainty, any normal user would not need the 2 terabyte version, especially considering it is an expensive $800 upgrade. You could buy a full iPhone 17 for that price. That being said, if you are a user that plans to use ProRes video recording, which does use up to 6 gigabytes per minute, that can really eat up your storage fast. For example, my iPhone 17 Pro with 1 terabyte of storage can only record 2 hours of this high quality footage. Now, the biggest difference between these phones is the display size. The 17 Pro has a 6.3-inch display, which is actually the same size this year as the normal iPhone 17, whereas the Pro Max has an exclusive 6.9-inch display size because there is no plus-size iPhone anymore in the lineup. So if you want the big iPhone, this is really your only option unless you go for the iPhone Air with its 6.5-inch display, but I feel like that's kind of in its own phone category at this point. Now, in terms of display specs, these are the same exact quality display. They have the same brightness levels, the same 120 hertz always on display, and the same visual quality. The only difference is size. And does size make a difference? I don't know. Admittedly, it does matter, but it might be a pro or a con. So the pros of the Pro Max is that when you are watching a video, looking at photos, playing a game, this additional screen size is so nice to have. It is really immersive. Like, I'm looking at it right now. This is such a beautiful display, especially with that 3000 nits and the new anti-reflective coating on all these iPhones. This is like the best looking iPhone display I have ever seen. It looks so good. But these aren't devices you plop down and watch. You hold them, they're in your hand. So an increase in screen size comes with a fair bit of trade-offs, and I feel that more than ever on the Pro Max model this year, because both Pro models have received a new design that is slightly thicker and heavier than last year's. Now, the weight difference is very minor. We're talking about like 4 grams of difference in weight. I certainly can't tell the difference between last year's Pro Max and this year's. In fact, I find the overall feeling of both Pro models actually a little more comfortable overall thanks to the unibody aluminum design, because there is no physical connecting point between the sides and the back. It is just one continuous piece of metal, and it feels very like soft in the hands. With that being said, the extra thickness is noticeable. It makes both phones feel a little chunkier and more present in your hand. It is noticeable on both the smaller Pro and especially on the Pro Max model. Admittedly, I've always had trouble using the Pro Max model with one hand, but it was an even bigger struggle this year, and that is just like using it at all, right? Like whether it's to reach the top of the display, use the camera control button, typing one-handed, just the general handling of this phone to me is not a pleasant experience, especially with one hand. The Pro Max always meant like a two-handed phone experience, and this year, that is more true than ever before. Now, the smaller Pro model, even though it does have the same thickness increase, it doesn't suffer as much from that usability issue because of the smaller form factor. I wouldn't say it's the perfect one-handed phone experience, but it's certainly manageable. And things like typing, using controls, buttons, and reaching the display is less of a stretch. Literally. The smaller size is also more pants pocket friendly, whereas with the Pro Max, it is at the edge of pocketability. Like, it's at the edge of my pocket. It's poking out of my pocket. It wants to come out of my pocket. This thing just wants to be free to roam the earth because it's almost the size of a full-grown human. Now, this bigger size doesn't get you any exclusive camera features. Both Pro models share the same camera system that includes the new 18 megapixel front-facing camera and the new 48 megapixel 4x telephoto lens that can also crop in on the sensor for an 8x telephoto mode, giving you better zoom shots than ever before. I was testing this out in New York City, taking lots of photos with it, and I came away so impressed by this 8x lens. I think it is absolutely one of the highlight features of the Pro model. And just in general, the photos I'm getting out of the Pro model this year look really good, and video quality especially, shooting in ProRes, I thought looked really good. I'm including some samples here in this video, as you can see, so you can judge for yourself. But yeah, I think these camera systems are really good this year. They even have some features that you can unlock in like the Final Cut camera app, like open gate footage and ProRes RAW. So they are very capable camera systems this year. And while this camera system is great, it doesn't matter if you don't have a great camera operator holding it. But what if you didn't need to hire a cameraman at all when all you really need is your iPhone and the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro, which combines a gimbal, a built-in tripod, and an advanced tracking system, so you can place this down anywhere and get fluid moving shots all on your own with its advanced 360 tracking system. All of this even works in the native iPhone camera app with Apple's Docket, and the Flow 2 Pro is the first and only gimbal that supports Apple Docket. And that makes it so much easier to use with third-party apps like Instagram or TikTok, where you get the full tracking feature. You can even get more advanced capabilities with the Insta360 app. My favorite one is the smart AI tracking system, where you can actually choose the subject that you want to track, or really advanced features like active zoom tracking, which can track movement precisely despite long distances from the subject. Using it as a gimbal, the Flow 2 Pro just provides super smooth footage, and with the built-in selfie stick, you can go from taking wide-angle videos or photos to capturing some really cool dynamic shots. Check out the Flow 2 Pro, the ultimate iPhone accessory, from my link in the description below. And the first 10 orders from that link will receive a 10% discount and a free gift, the awesome MagSafe phone mount. And thank you to Insta360 for sponsoring this video. So, the 17 Pro and Pro Max have the same camera system, the same A19 Pro chip, the same vapor chamber cooling, and performance, and the real difference between them does really just come down to display size, form factor, and I'm missing something. Oh, battery life, and this is where you have to be really careful. So I think anyone can read Apple's website and see that the 17 Pro Max has better battery life than the 17 Pro. However, I don't think most people realize just how much of an improvement the regular iPhone 17 Pro has made in battery life performance. Apple rates this as the same rating as last year's 16 Pro Max, which is generally regarded as having good battery life. However, based on my own usage and after watching several third-party video tests from Mr. Who's the Boss, The Tech Chap, and the Tom's Guide battery guide, the battery on the 17 Pro is getting even slightly better battery life performance than the 16 Pro Max from last year, meaning that if you were like me and used to get the bigger Pro Max model because you needed the highest battery capacity, well, this year the normal 17 Pro should be able to handle your usage pretty well. Tom's Guide battery test gives it a total of 15 hours and 32 minutes, an hour more usage than the 16 Pro Max, while the 17 Pro Max got around 2 hours more than the 17 Pro at 17 hours and 54 minutes. This thing is an absolute beast. I guess that kind of makes up for how chunky it is. But I do want to issue a warning, because you do have to be careful. Depending on where you live, Apple may offer an eSIM variant iPhone or one with a physical SIM card. And these Pro models are not built the same, because For iPhones without a physical SIM card slot, Apple took that extra room they saved by removing the card slot and added even more battery capacity. In fact, an iPhone 17 Pro with the SIM card tray only has a 3,988 milliamp hour battery, while the eSIM version has a 4,252 milliamp hour battery, an 18% battery increase. And the Pro Max has a 4,823 milliamp hour with the SIM tray, and the eSIM version has a 5,088 milliamp hour battery, a smaller but still a noticeable 9% battery gain. The most interesting thing to me going over all these tests was that in the Mr. Who's the Boss battery life test, he tests the physical SIM versions of the iPhone 17 Pro, and they actually lose out in battery life compared to the 16 Pro Max. Whereas any test that I've seen where it's the eSIM 17 Pro versus the 16 Pro Max, the 17 Pro will usually win out. Now, if you're in the US like I am, you don't have to worry. None of these phones have a physical SIM card tray slot. But if you are in another country that has the SIM card version, just be made aware your battery life gains will not be as impressive as this. Of course, the 17 Pro Max is the battery champ, and I get it. You can always use more battery life, and it's especially a good thing to have even more battery capacity than you think, because batteries do reduce in their capacity as they age. So a bigger battery will last longer for a full day of usage for a longer period of time. So I think most people instinctively will just choose to spend that $100 extra on the Pro Max, if only to get the absolute best battery life and to have a phone that ages really gracefully. But that line of thinking is where the trap comes in, and I get it because I used to have this same logic. I always wanted the best specs for everything. I always wanted the longest lasting battery life, and I would always pick the Pro Max model. And I tried for years to make the Pro Max size work, but as this phone has gotten bigger and now chunkier, it just isn't the right choice for me anymore. It's like the One Ring. I feel it calling out to me. It's saying I got a big screen, a big battery life. I'm uncomfortable in your pants pocket. Use me, my precious. Well, I've snapped out of that spell, and as I've been using the 17 Pro and the Pro Max, I find that I'm not as worried about my battery life as I used to be, and I prefer the experience of using a smaller iPhone. But that's just me. There are people that will appreciate the Pro Max size, and if you love a larger phone size, you'll get the best battery life, additional storage options, and have an iPhone that should age better for the long haul. Just make sure you aren't sacrificing comfort and usability for a brick that ends up dragging down your pants. Or I guess you can wear a belt. Anyway, I hope I made the decision between picking these two iPhone models easier for you. If I did, please leave me a like. If you want to see more and learn all about Apple's new products, make sure you're subscribed. And thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one.